Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lora Rolling and this is part 3 of the Jolly Snowman ornament tutorial. This is the Jolly Snowman ornament that we are making. It is so cute. I'm having so much fun with this one. And today we're going to be making the unit called It's Snowing. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2 yet, that's okay. You can do these out of order. I'll have those videos listed down below in the description. That way when you finish this one, you can go back and watch those. We just have a few materials to get ready, so let's get them listed and then we can get started. Let's go. So the beads that we're going to be using in today's video are all Miyuki Delicas. I have opaque turquoise, white pearl, silver lined crystal, metallic bronze, and opaque black. Just to keep it simple, I'm going to call this turquoise, white, silver, bronze, and black. Also need some beading thread and a beading needle. I like to use the Eslon Fire in the color crystal, and I use the 4-pound. You could also use 6-pound thread if you'd like that. And then I also have a size 10 beading needle. If all you have is a size 12, that would work too. For implements, I like to hold my thread with my long nose pliers, and then I cut my thread at the end with my scissors. And then today in the beginning, I'm going to show you how I use the fire method to end the tail. We just need 3 feet of thread for today's project, so let's thread our needle with 3 feet of thread and then we can get started. So now I've threaded my needle and I'm ready to pick up my first 3 beads. Let's pick up 1 turquoise, 1 white, and 1 turquoise. Then I'm going to take these 3 beads and I'm going to pull them down to the bottom of my thread, leaving about a 6-inch tail. Then let's tie a square knot. So we're going to cross over on the top and then pull our tail through. And then we're going to do that again, cross over on top and pull the tail through. So now we have what looks like a little snowman. I'm going to put 2 fingers in the lower loop, the one that has the beads in it, and then I'm going to pull on the threads both sides until that top loop turns into a knot. Just like that. Then I'm going to take my tail thread and I'm not going to touch it to the flame, but I am going to get really close so that it melts the tip of the thread. Just enough to make this teensy little knot or teensy little bead. Now, keeping my 2 fingers in the loop, I'm going to tug on the long thread while I'm turning the loop until that little knot at the end touches the long thread. Now I'm going to take my thumbnail and pull that knot all the way down to the 3 beads. And that completes row number 1. So what I'm going to do is the little knot is kind of in the middle of those 2 beads. I'm going to pull on the thread until that knot looks like it's coming out of 1 bead. Now we are ready to pick up our next 2 beads. Let's pick up 2 turquoise beads. And it looks like we're coming out of this bead. Let's sew through the next. And now we can pick up a turquoise bead and a white bead. And we're coming out of this bead, so let's sew through the next bead. Oops. yanked it right out of my hand. Alrighty. Now let's pick up one white bead and one turquoise bead. And we're coming out of this bead. Let's sew through the next bead, and this time we're going to sew through the bead right below it too. So when we're sewing through two beads like this, I call this stepping up. What we're doing is we're putting our thread in position to start the next row. So make sure those beads are all tight and sitting on top of each other, just like that. And now that completes row number 2. Let's start row number 3. Let's start by picking up 2 turquoise beads. And sewing through the next. Now let's pick up 1 turquoise. And we're coming out of this bead. We're going to skip the bead that's set down, and we're going to sew through the bead that's poking up. I'm going to call that our up bead. Now we can pick up 2 turquoise beads and sew through the next. Now let's pick up 1 white bead. We're coming out of this bead. Let's skip the down bead and sew through the up bead. Now let's pick up 2 turquoise beads and sew through the next. And we'll pick up 1 turquoise bead. We're going to skip the down bead and sew through the up, and also sew through the one right below it. And that means that we've completed row number 3, and we're ready to start row number 4. Let's start by picking up 2 turquoise beads and sew through the next. Let's pick up 1 turquoise and sew through the up. 1 turquoise and sew through the up. If you notice, I turn my work as I go. It just makes it easier for me to sew, so that might help you too. Let's pick up 2 turquoise beads and sew through the next. One white bead and sew through the up. One white and sew through the up. Two turquoise and sew through the next. One turquoise and sew through the up. And 1 turquoise. This is our last bead in this row, so we're going to skip the down bead, sew through the up, and sew through the bead right below it. If you'll notice, that's always the last 2 beads, so that's what I'm going to call it when we finish a row. Alrighty, so now we get to start row number 5. Let's start with 2 turquoise beads. Then 1 turquoise bead, one silver, making sure that our thread doesn't get latched on. We always want to hide our thread. 1 turquoise, 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 white, 1 turquoise, 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, and 1 turquoise. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And look at that, we have our first little snowball. It's snowing. Okay, let's start row number 6 with 1 turquoise and 1 white. One turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, and 1 turquoise. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 7. Let's start with 1 turquoise and 1 white. Making sure that those beads always sit on top of each other. 1 white, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 white, 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 8. Let's start with 2 turquoise, oh, I don't like the way that bead looks. It's like a little thin one. So I'm going to actually go back out. And then I'm going to back out of both of these. I'm going to throw this one in the trash. And then I'm going to pick up one and another and continue on. I'm a little bit of a bead snob. I like them to be all uniform. It just makes for a better ornament, I think. Alrighty, moving on. Let's pick up 1 white, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 white, 1 white, 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 2 turquoise, 1 white, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 silver, 1 turquoise, and 1 turquoise. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we can start row number 9 with 2 turquoise, 1 white, 1 white, Oh, I love when the snowballs start to come together. It's exciting. We're creating snowballs, right? Okay, one turquoise, one turquoise, one turquoise, adding to the next snowball, one white, I am so easily amused. Okay, one turquoise, two turquoise, one 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 turquoise, two turquoise, one white, one white, one turquoise, one turquoise. Oh, I grabbed the wrong color. Let me back that out. And put the right color in. One turquoise, one turquoise, and one turquoise. Sewing through the last two beads, and I don't know if it's because it's Saturday when I'm filming this, or I'm just like extra giddy today, or I'm going too fast or whatever, but thank you for putting up with me and my little quirkies. Sometimes I can film these with 0 errors, and sometimes I have days like today where I'm just too talkative and I'm making mistakes and picking up smaller beads. It's all in fun though, right? Okay. Starting row number 10, let's start with 2 turquoise, one turquoise, one white, one turquoise, one turquoise, one turquoise, one white, one white, one turquoise, two turquoise, one turquoise, 1 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 turquoise, 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 white, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise. Oh, I have a little knot in my thread. Do you see that? I'm just gonna pull it out and straighten out my thread and hope that doesn't happen again. 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise. Sewing through 2 beads, and let's start row 11 with 2 turquoise, 1 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 white, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 2 white beads, 1 turquoise, 1 silver, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 silver, 1 turquoise, 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 white, 1 white, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, and 1 turquoise. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we can start row number 12. Let's start with 2 turquoise beads. One turquoise, 1 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 white, 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 turquoise, 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 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 white, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 1 turquoise, and 1 turquoise. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we've completed our 12 rows. Now, if this is the first triangle that you've done with me, I always cap the ends and then I add in the process, I add connection beads or connection rows on some sides and not on others. And that is so that we can connect our units together. And that's what we do to make our ornament complete, right? So let's cap this corner first by adding one turquoise. And it turns it into this little point. And I'm not going to add any connection beads to this side, but I am going to add it to this side, and I'm not going to have any on the top. So we need to get our thread from here to here, hiding it all along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, without picking up any more beads, I'm going to sew through these edge beads on the edge of the quadrant. But to make it simple, I'm going to actually flip over the triangle, and then I'm going to start sewing up each bead one at a time, or two at a time if you can catch them too. Don't try to go too fast. We don't want to break any beads now that we've almost completed our unit. You don't want to have to start all over, right? So while I'm sewing, I'm going to just sew up one bead at a time. You don't have to sew through the same beads that I do. You can pick random beads as long as you're picking one per row. That way you're hiding your thread. The end goal is to get up to that top bead, right? So this is when I usually ask the question of the day, or an emoji of the day, right? So the emoji of the day is going to be a snowball or a snow cloud, something like that. So put a snowball or a snow cloud in the comments so that I know that you have completed all the way up to here. And I just get such a kick out of seeing your comments. Make a comment down below. Tell me hi, or you know, whatever you want to in each video. I just love to see those comments. And I generally will heart them when I see them, unless for some reason I'm in a hurry or I'm in the car and yeah, somebody else is driving, of course, while I'm looking at my phone. But sometimes I forget and I'm like, oh, I saw that like 3 weeks ago and I never hearted it. But anyways, I do look at the comments. Alrighty, so now we are up at the top and we're coming out of this bead. Let's add one white bead to cap this corner. And now we're going to add connection beads up the side. So let's start with one white, one turquoise, one turquoise, one bronze, one bronze, one turquoise, one turquoise, one turquoise, one black, one turquoise, and one turquoise. Now we are at our third corner, so let's cap this with one turquoise bead. And now what we're going to do is we're going to sew up without adding any more beads. We're going to sew up 6 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now I'm going to do what I call a zigzag. We're coming out of the top of this bead. We're going to sew down the next bead. and then we're going to sew up the bead right next to that one. Now let's sew up 2 more beads, 1 and 2, and let's zigzag again. We're coming out of the top of this bead, so let's sew down the bead right next to it and sew up the bead right next to that one, and then sew up 2 more beads, 1 and 2. And now I feel that this last bead that we added is super secure. It's not going to come out. It's not going to get loose or anything. So let's cut our thread now. We can hold on to our thread with our long nose pliers, and then taking our scissors, we're going to get as close to the bead as possible without cutting the bead, and just cut that thread right off. So now we have completed this unit. We only need 5 of these, so go ahead and do this 4 more times. Enjoy building your snowballs, and I will see you in a second. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here with me today and beading along with me. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified when the next video comes out. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for watching.